We've heard some pretty amazing statistics about pastors and about the public and how many people don't vote. You know, I have a theory about voting. And my theory is that when I go in there, I often wonder to myself, how much is my vote worth in terms of how many people out there are not voting? This is Pastor George Pearsons, and we welcome you to this special edition of the Believer's Voice of Victory broadcast, Faith for Our Nation. I'm here with Buddy Pilgrim and David Barton, and we're talking about the issues that are so close to us and so close to our nation that we need to know as we all prepare to vote. And as pastors, we get into our pulpits, and ministers, we bring these issues to our congregations. Let me give you a couple of pieces of information before we get back into our discussion here. First of all, we have a website called americastands.us, and it has all kinds of information for you. It has voter guides. It has, we are actually posting the broadcast that we did with Bishop Butler some weeks ago, and now with David Barton. All of the outlines, the notes are available on there, as well as scriptures and just information that you need to be aware of concerning our nation and how to prepare to vote for this in this primary election. And of course, David Barton has his website. It's wallbuilders.com
or whatever you want.
Whatever. Okay, we'll put it up on the screen. Wall Builders is yours, and then Buddy, you have yours, Integrity Leadership.
IntegrityLeadership.org.
And you have some tremendous teaching. Of course, Buddy has been involved in the corporate world as well as the political world. Yeah. And David, this is what you focus on all the time. And so thank you for being here, and thank you for encouraging us and getting us to get out there and to vote and to take our place. Mm-hmm. We've heard some pretty amazing statistics about pastors and about the public and how many people don't vote. You know, I have a theory about voting. And my theory is that when I go in there, I often wonder to myself, how much is my vote worth in terms of how many people out there are not voting, and how that multiplies the power of my vote. I mean, David, you've told stories before, amazing stories about how elections have been won or lost by a vote. Just tell us a little bit about that.
A few things. The lower the level of the election, the less people vote in it. Yeah. So you'll have 100 million vote in a presidential election, which is still only 1 out of every 3 Americans, essentially. But you'll have 120 million vote there. As you move down into lower elections, whether it be governor, state rep, whatever. Yep. And then when you get down to local elections, which is around the city council, the school board, et cetera, right, you're usually looking at 2% chooses the winner in those elections. And so when you go vote in November, you're going to be looking at governors and U.S. senators and reps, but down here there's going to be some others as well. And a lot of times people don't pay any attention.
Down ballot.
Yeah. All the way down. Yeah. And so there's some significant things where one vote makes a difference. Give a quick example. The idea of having young junior high boys and girls share the same bathroom and same locker room actually got birth in Fort Worth, Texas. It was the Fort Worth, Texas School Board that said, hey, we don't need separate locker rooms. Let's have these 13, 14-year-olds all together in the same shower and the same bathroom. You're going,
oh dear.
Yeah. How stupid is that? Well, you know, that came out, and then the President Obama picked that up and made it a national mandate, said if you get any federal funds, you will do this in your locker rooms and bathrooms. And so there was some backlash. And so right off the bat here in Fort Worth, a town of about 150,000, we said, okay, time for a new school board. I mean, this is nonsense. Yeah. And so we looked in the town of 150,000. The president of the school board who led that decision he was elected with only 1,100 votes. And so we found one Hispanic church in his district that had 3,000 adults in that district and had opposite view to what he had.
Right.
So one church can take out the entire school board member, you know. And it was this school board that started the thing, but then across the nation you had others that said, I don't like that. So for example, up in Northwest Arkansas, a town of 40,000 people, a lady up there said, they're not doing that in our school. I'm running for school board, they ain't doing this. Yeah. And she ran for school board and she got elected. Town of 40,000 people, there were only 35 votes cast in her election. She won. You know, she was willing to run. But you go up to Iowa, in northern Iowa, there was a farmer up that said, not our school, so we're not doing that. And so he ran, and as it turned out, being a farmer, he was really busy. So on election day, he did not vote at all. Yeah. And it's not what people think, oh, he voted, lost by one vote. No. Right. As it turns out, not a single vote was cast for school board in that election. Had he voted for himself, he would be the entire school board. He would be it by himself. And that's how those lower races are so significant. Yes. Because, see, right now in America, the most popular sex ed curriculum in America today is put out by Planned Parenthood, which is the pro-abortion, pro-LGBT, pro-everything wrong group. You know, if we had people running for school boards, pretty easy to get elected, you can say, no, we're not doing that curriculum. We're doing an abstinence-based curriculum that reflects biblical values, that you wait with sex until marriage, just like God said. And so those are easy things to do. Now, some of that's going to be on the ballot this fall. You know, people are going to say, well, I know who the governor is or whatever, but I don't know who these guys are down here. Yeah. Well, that's where on the website, iVoter Guide is one of those things that really helps you identify who the voters are.
And you have that on your website, too.
We have that on our website as well. And you can look and see who the candidates are and what their positions are. But that also is a word, hey, guys, folks listening, maybe you want to run for school board. Maybe you ought to run for city council and mayor. You got good values, get out there and do something with them.
Sure.
I mean, this is a way to serve the community. 99% of what you do on city council is not going to have anything to do with godly values. It's going to be the size of the manhole covers, where the sidewalk's going to be 4, 5, or 6 feet. But when it comes to the time that we need those values right, we need the right person there, just like on the school board.
Especially in the schools, because that's where those who have beliefs that are, I think, antithetical to what we believe get so active, and they get active because they know if they can teach kids that at a young age, they'll have them, in many cases, for a life.
That's right.
So they teach them a wrong set of core beliefs
That's right.
when they're children, and then they have them for life. So it's important that we step in, make sure they're taught the right things,
That's right.
so that we have them for life, and God has them for life.
And that's the other point, is school boards determine the curriculums used in those schools. And there are some terrible, the common curriculum out there now for world geography or world history has 19 pages on Islam and 2 pages on Christianity. And the 19 pages are how great Islam is, and 2 pages are how bad Christianity is.
Yeah.
Guess what our kids are getting? I wonder why the church is not growing right now. I wonder why the fastest growing part of the population is anti-Christian. I wonder where that's come from, because we've been teaching in schools now for a decade. So you're exactly right, buddy. Everything, Jesus said in Luke 6:40, every student, when he's fully trained, will be like his teacher. And so what happens with school boards who get to determine teacher contracts and curriculum and content, whether sex ed or history or government or anything else, that's a place for Christians to get involved.
The wisest man, separate from Jesus, was Solomon, and he said, train up a child in the way he should go, and in his old age he'll not depart from it. And then the verse right after that has to do with money. We don't get right teaching about money. We don't get right teaching about abortion. We don't get right teaching about what's called social justice now, which is socialism, really. All of those things are taught wrongly in the schools. So we need to train up a child in the way he should go, and we'll have adults that know how to vote right.
And that makes a difference. And that's where the pulpit can step in and make a difference, but oftentimes the pulpit doesn't want to. That's political stuff. No, it's not. It's biblical stuff. It's worldview stuff. And so that's one of the areas where they have to jump. And we were talking yesterday even, we talked the first day about God gave 613 laws, but he has his top 10. And out of the top 10, there are 3 that are on the ballot this fall. And that is public religious expression, the rights of conscience. That is the issue of LGBT, marriage, sexuality, transgender, all that. And the third is the issue of abortion. And no matter what you're running for, no matter what that person's running for, you look and see where they are on those 3 issues. And I don't care how important you think taxes are, or roads, or immigration, or anything else. And by the way, we're wall builders not because we build the southern wall. We're wall builders out of the book of Nehemiah. So people have become so biblically illiterate they don't even know what the book of Nehemiah is anymore. So in the sense of rebuilding, that's what we do. Whatever your issue is, that's fine. God has told you what his issues are. And so that's what you have to vote on. And within that, we were talking about how important judges are yesterday. I just brought something that's kind of fun to show you. It's a good remembrance back. Buddy, you're close. Read the titles of some of these things.
Oh, let's see. Michael Powers, now under sentence of death for murder of Timothy Kennedy, but it's the life of Michael Powers.
All right, and what can you see the year on the bottom of it?
The year is 1820.
1820. So all of these happen to be murder cases. Every one of these, and these are the judicial records, judicial decisions of all these murder cases.
The report of the trial of Dominic Daly and James Halligan for the murder of Marcus Lyon before the Supreme Judicial Court.
And what year is that?
This one is, where is the year, David?
It's
1806.
1806, there you go. So all of those are murder cases, stacks of them.
Yeah.
Here's the significant thing. In the judiciary, back in all of these cases, the guy gets sentenced to death. The judge says, evidence has been heard, jury was picked, and they often say, you pick the jury. But when a jury of peers, that's what it meant back then.
Sure.
The defendant, who's on trial for murder, got to pick his own friends to be on the jury. And what happened was we had such a belief in truth back then that even his friends said you're guilty of it. And so truth prevailed. There was not see, today truth is a relative thing. Back then truth was the most important thing. And so the judge would say, okay, all the evidence has been heard, even your friends said you're guilty of this. You've been sentenced. The jury says you're to be hung or you're to be executed or whatever. The judge says, that means you have only a couple of weeks left to live, which means you're soon going to appear before the Creator of the world. And obviously, having committed murder, you don't know the Creator of the world. You need to. You're about to appear and answer for your sins. They tell these guys, you need to get saved before the next 2 weeks because you're going into eternity and you'll be in hell if you don't. Imagine a judge saying something like that today. See, today, a kid can't say God at graduation. No, judges used to be able to say that. We have all the records of, so judges become really important. And so picking judges that are not secularists is a huge deal. If you're a secularist, you're going to exclude God from everything.
Sure.
God's the creator and judge of the universe. You don't get justice without connecting with the great judge of the universe. So that's an issue. Another issue that's going to be in this election, no question about it, is going to be the issue of abortion. I mean, that will be there, and people say, well, I'm so tired of hearing about that issue. Yeah, I am too. Why don't we go back to being pro-life so we don't have that issue? But in the meantime, we're fighting about it. Even as we closed yesterday, was talking about some recent votes. Abortion is a debate that's been going a long time. Buddy, read the front of that book and read the year at the bottom of it.
You get to be our reader.
I guess.
The title of the book.
Oh, me. Observations on Abortion.
And what's the year?
The year is 1808.
1808. So we're talking abortion in
been
America,
going on a
1808.
long time.
That issue has been there a long time. By the way, these are founding fathers who signed the Declaration of Independence. James Wilson, he started the first law school in America. That's the first law book for the first law school in America. He talks about abortion in here. This is John Witherspoon, signer of the Declaration, president of Princeton. He has lectures in here to his students about abortion. Abortion is not a new issue. The issue is that we now allow it, because back here we didn't allow it.
Listen to the subtitle of this book.
Okay.
I've been reading while you were talking, David. An account of the manner in which it takes place, in which abortion takes place, the causes which produce it, and the methods of preventing or treating it. And boy, do we not need to be talking about that.
Here's where today's generation doesn't get it because of today's education. Oh, they were so backward back then. They rode horses. My gosh, they didn't even know what the internet was. All that ever changes is technology. Issues do not change.
Right.
Abortion is an issue that's been there. And by the way, this is abortion 200 years ago, right? Abortion's covered in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. The Bible covers that. It talks about unborn child. You don't harm the unborn child in the womb. So what you find out is as long as there have been people who were pregnant, there were people who didn't want to be pregnant. All the changes in technology of how you end the pregnancy. That's all you debate.
Christians need to understand a broad list of issues, not just abortion. Abortion is absolutely, I believe, the number one most important issue. We need to understand all the issues, but abortion is so important. I think it illustrates the importance of us not only getting involved in the election, in the presidential election, in the off-year election, but staying engaged in and involved in what's going on in the political arena throughout the year. And here's the reason I say that. You know this, David, there was recently a bill passed by the U.S. House of Representatives to ban abortion for babies who are 20 weeks old. I don't call them fetuses that are 20 weeks old. It's a 20-week-old baby that's just still in the womb. The House of Representatives passed that bill at the urging of President Trump. Trump said that if y'all pass it, I'll sign it. They passed it. Well, why hadn't he signed it? Because he can't, because it hadn't gotten through the Senate yet. And it hadn't gotten through the Senate because we've got a filibuster rule now that says it takes 20 senators to get this through the Senate right now. That bill is sitting there right now. There are 4,000 babies a month that are aborted that are 20 weeks or more old. Now you think about this. We've got probably 50 or 51 senators that would vote for that bill, and a president said he would sign it. But we can't get 8 or 9 from the other side. We can't get 10 from the other side to get us over that 60 vote hump. And we need to either do away with the filibuster, or we need to vote in 10 more senators who will support that bill, because every week that bill sits there, 400 more babies die that shouldn't have to die.
I'm going to go further than that. Not only that bill is there are over 400 bills sitting in the Senate right now that are facing the same fate. And there are a number of pro-life bills that have been passed, not just that one. There's over 400 bills the House has passed and sent to the Senate, and the Senate is killing them in that cloture rule. And by the way, if you lose the House, if the House gets turned over this time, there will not be 400 bills like that coming next time. Those 400, it's the Senate that is the roadblock. And it goes back to rule number 22 in the Senate, which was passed under Woodrow Wilson, so we're talking 100 years ago. You have the filibuster, but you also have the cloture rule. And the cloture rule it's a procedural thing where that you can't close down debates until a certain point in time. And so here's the deal. The cloture rule is what allows open-ended debate to keep going forever. And cloture says it's time to stop the debate and have a vote. So what they do right now under the cloture rule, in the last 28 years prior to President Trump, the cloture rule was used 17 times in 28 years. In the last 15 months, it's been used 79 times. So they use the cloture rule to keep any of these votes from coming up. And so the cloture rule means you got to get 60 senators, and that's the 10 you're talking about. So you need 9 more senators. And if you got 9 more senators, man, the president who did the pro-life stuff, we could get the Johnson Amendment completely repealed. He's told the Justice Department not to enforce it. That's the one that shuts down the churches from speaking. What we have done with there's so much good Christian stuff. I'm not going to say Christian, biblical value stuff that Christians would respond to. I mean, I've been working on bills over there that do you know that right now we pay the ACLU to sue? The government pays the ACLU to sue to remove religious expressions. We can get that stopped. But we can't get the Senate on because of that cloture rule. And so, buddy, you're exactly right.
And my point about the cloture rule is this. If you're a Christian or if you're a pastor, you may not care about the cloture rule for the sake of tax policy or for the sake of getting some environmental policy passed or whatever. But I tell you what, you should care about it for the sake of that many babies' lives every single year. Not just every single year, every single month, but it's every day. Every single day there's some more babies that are killed because of that. And we either need to do one of two things. You either got to vote in 10 more people who will support the legislation in spite of the cloture rule, or you get this 100,000 churches that you referred to on an earlier broadcast that believe in the Word of God. Get that 100,000 churches to get their tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of congregants to start calling Mitch McConnell and say, let me tell you, regardless of what you think politically about what will happen if you do away with the cloture rule, what the threats may be if the Democrats take over at some point in the future, How many babies' lives can you justify
I know.
by letting that be delayed another day, another week, another month?
I was in Congress this week talking to some U.S. senators, and it looks like we're only about 2 senators away from getting rid of the cloture rule. All we need is to shift about 2 senators.
That's 2 senators away from saving every one of those babies every day.
That's exactly right.
That's
right. And there are so many pro-life bills. Yeah. See, the other thing that goes, people see what happened with that omnibus bill, $1.3 trillion that happened a few months ago, and they're really ticked with it, and they should be. Because, I mean, you mentioned Proverbs 22:6, train up a child. The next verse is the borrower is serving the lender, and that's an economic verse on debt. And if you're in debt, you lose your freedom. And so we're in huge debt, $21 trillion. So what happens in the sense of dealing with issues like that goes, we decided this election, and it literally goes into this election and what happens with those rules. But we're about two votes away in the Senate from getting those rules changed, wow, which changes all sorts of stuff, because that big omnibus bill, federal law requires that there be 12 appropriation bills turned out every 2 years by Congress. And when you have those 12 appropriation bills, they very specifically fund every single thing that goes on. The Senate has not passed those 12 bills in 10 years. It's been 10 years. The House is doing it, but they get over the Senate, and the Senate refuses to do it because you got to have the 60 votes, and they don't have it. And so what happens is they come back with this omnibus bill. You get this Christmas tree of every single thing stuck on it, and you can only vote it up or down.
And that's where, George, continuous involvement in what's going on in our political arena matters, because a few 100,000 Christians calling a senator, calling Mitch McConnell, calling their representative, will literally change the course of the nation even before the next election.
And if they hold the House and pick up some Senate seats, it'll change in the next 2 years. We will be a revolutionary different nation.
That's why we have to vote. In the last couple of moments of this broadcast, I'll read to you 2 stunning things. These are words from the Lord that Brother Copeland gave. This one was from 1998. And the Lord spoke to him and said, "Tell my people wherever you go, those who vote for politicians knowing their immoral policies and platforms and illegal acts had better repent. They are partners with those politicians and will be responsible for every baby's death. You've taken the devil's part by not voting at all." And then he said it again. He said, "I will say it, the Lord hold you responsible for voting for whom I tell you to vote. And you can't get out of it by not voting." And here's the clincher right here. "I will hold you responsible for voting for the wrong one if you do that." These are serious, serious times that we are in that realm of not rights but responsibility.
That's right.
We do have a responsibility. And what I want to get into in the next broadcast that we have, I want you to address what's at stake in this upcoming midterm election. It's going to try to slip by us silently, and we cannot let that happen for some of the reasons that you're talking about here. But I'd like to get into more of that as to why we must vote, why we must have our voices heard in this nation. And you know, I was thinking about how during the school board elections and all of that, I'll go in there, and you know, it's on a Saturday most times, and I'll go in there and it's like the quietest place in the world.
That's right.
You walk in and it seems like there are cobwebs on the workers. There's no action going on. And we have to change that. So we're going to pick that up back tomorrow, but stay with us. I'll be right back with you.
We hope you enjoyed today's teaching from Kenneth Copeland Ministries. And remember, Jesus is Lord.